Hello my friends. This just in. The biggest thing in the sea is not the fish apparently, but a ship. A battleship. Yamato. What? Yamato, stupid name. What is it? I'm just gonna... It's big. Yamato, apparently the biggest battleship ever built. Bigger than the Bismarck. What? I thought the Bismarck is the biggest one. No, I thought the fish is the biggest thing in the sea. Turns out that it's not the Bismarck, it's the Yamato, the Japanese big ship. Well, let's see, my friends. Let's educate ourselves on the topic of Yamato. Where's my mug? Oh God. I have forgotten my mug. I have it right here. Me mug. This time I'm not drinking tea. I am drinking Vitamin Well because they're not sponsoring me. I would love to, but nah. But I love Vitamin Well so much. Please sponsor me, Vitamin Well. They don't. Tastes like sunken battleships. My friends, before we jump into the Yamato and the biggest thing on the seas, we have patrons. Patrons everywhere. That's 6. 3 new patrons as usual. I will read them to you. We have Justin Papiers, Mr. Papiers. Arigato gozaimasu for becoming a Patreon. We have Heriberto Ortiz Padilla. Am I saying Padilla correctly like a Mexican person? Padilla? In Estonia we say, you know, the food, tortilla, right? Quesadilla, the Mexican things. In Estonia, yeah, people like those things, they buy them, but they say tortilla, quesadilla. No, it's tortilla. And jalapeno, we say jalapeno. Estonians cannot pronounce Mexican things. But thank you, Mr. Heriberto, for becoming a Patreon. Finally, we have Shark Hunter 45. Out for the sharks. And this is not a shark, this is a Nemo fish, but still, Shark Hunter 45, thank you for supporting the channel. If you can allow it to yourself, please become a patron. The link is in the description below. Alright my friends, let's see what the hell is this Yamato, tomato, potato, I don't know. Let's see. Teen violence, what? Ooh.
They were designed to be the best. They met enemies face to face, endured tragedies and enjoyed victories. They went down in history due to the bravery of their crews. They are the ships that deserve to be called naval legends.
Alright, I'm not impressed yet. Ooh.
In this episode, watch Yamato. Life and death of the legendary battleship.
Yamato. Tomato, potato. How big are the cannons though? Like Abrams has 120 on top of it. This is, it looks... By the look of it, I would say 180. I'd say the main guns are 180 or 200. That's what I say. Might be horribly wrong here. And if I am, then, I don't know, comment below that Artur is wrong.
By spring 1945, it became clear that only a miracle could save Japan from defeat in World War II. The land of the rising sun had lost virtually all its naval and air forces, and US troops were already landing on the Japanese islands.
Yep. Oh my god, look how many turrets it has. Big guns in the front, 2 turrets of big guns and smaller turrets of big guns. Big guns in the back, smaller guns on the side. What the hell is this thing? This is armed to the teeth. How is it powered? Coal? Is shoveling coal into the oven, singing some, I don't know, work song? Oh, we're the coal shovelers of Yamato! How do you power such a huge behemoth without nuclear?
On the morning of April 6, Japan's legendary battleship Yamato sailed off to fight her last battle.
Holy hell!
The last bit of hope the Japanese possessed rested with this steel giant. The largest and most powerful battleship of the time.
These have to be 200. 200 at least. They're not barrels, they're not cannons. How do you... I have no words. Pew pew, big explosions, that's what I want to say.
That naval operation in the Pacific, dubbed Tenichi Go, Heaven Won, was a dangerous mission, but the faith in Yamato was almost religious, and the Japanese believed luck would go hand in hand with the ship.
So they believed in it really harshly. Japanese were quite often blinded by their own religious belief in their might. I mean, they were really strong and mighty, but not that strong and mighty. They were overconfident in almost everything they had. Except for the infantry, the actual infantry. That was OP. They never surrendered, they fought till they died. That was OP. But everything else, their tactics, their strategies, not that OP.
The history of battleship Yamato began 10 years before the ship's legendary last mission. In October 1935, Japanese engineers put together a first draft of the famous naval giant. Unlike the Americans, whose ships were limited to a size that could pass through the Panama Canal, nothing restricted the Japanese from building ships of a large size and displacement and arming them as heavily as possible. Japanese designers set out to make battleships powerful enough to outmatch all existing foreign counterparts and any ships that would be built in the upcoming years.
But I don't think the size of a battleship actually gives it an edge. From some point, the size doesn't really help, I think. There's a balance point. If you go over it, you're just gonna build a huge ship that will be slower. That will be a huge target, easy to hit. I don't see the positives of building a huge ship, except for Sabaton can make a cool song of it, and we can watch cool videos about it. But in the Second World War, I think to have many small ships is better.
The production facilities behind me were the Kure Naval Arsenal in those days. Its dockyard saw the birth of battleship Yamato. Her keel was laid in 1937 and the ship was completed in 1941. Yamato was the heaviest battleship in the world. Back then, the total construction expenses amounted to 130 million yen. That would be over 1 trillion yen, $8 billion in today's prices.
$8 billion! Woo, baby! It's more expensive than the aircraft carriers of the United States. We have an aircraft carrier, I think it was $5 billion in nowadays money. This was $8 billion. And it's not an aircraft it couldn't be even compared to an aircraft carrier. Aircraft carrier could take down this thing in a minute. So why was it so expensive? Huh?
Initially, Japan planned to build a total of 4 Yamato-class ships. However, the Pacific War began, and after completing the second ship, Musashi, Japan stopped building the third ship, Shinano, and never started the fourth one. Eventually, Shinano was converted to an aircraft carrier.
Yamato is the ancient name for Japan, meaning great harmony. Strict secrecy was maintained throughout her construction. A high fence of mats surrounded the dockyard. All engineers swore a solemn oath of non-disclosure, and the workers going in and out were compared with their photos. Japanese shipbuilders certainly had something big to hide. Total displacement, 72,808 tons. Length, 863 feet.
So it's almost 900 feet, which is 300 meters. That's long as hell. That is very long.
Beam, 128 feet. Draft, 35 feet. Armament, main battery. 3 turrets, each having 40 SK Mod 94 guns.
Okay, how big are the turrets? How big are the barrels, actually? I want to know. If you can even use millimeters to measure them. They're so big you should use centimeters or meters even, maybe.
Caliber, 18-inch.
How much is 18? I don't know, I have to Google. 457 millimeters! What the hell? Oh my god, these barrels are big. I said 200 and that was already like a stretch. 200, that's really big. This is almost 500. 50 centimeters is easier to say than 500 millimeters. What the hell? These things are huge, baby. And they have 3. And there's another turret and there's the third turret. So 9 of those. I think even 3 of those could take down a ship. Woo, baby. I have to take back my words of having a big ship is bad. Having 9 of those on top of your vessel can take down anything. So it's good. Make more.
Secondary battery. 2 turrets, each having 3 Type 3 guns. Caliber, 6-inch. Anti-aircraft artillery, 12 coaxial Type 89 guns. Caliber,
alright, these are
5-inch.
anti-aircrafts.
50 triple barrel and 2 single barrel Type 96 automatic cannons. Caliber, 0.98 inch. Air group, 7 seaplanes, reconnaissance planes and spotting aircraft.
Mitsubishi. I have a Mitsubishi car, actually. So yeah, they made the Zeros, they made the planes. Oh, the virus is attacking! There was a sneeze. I sneeze 3 times usually, but the virus, now it's everywhere. No, I'm healthy, I'm joking, I'm just sneezing.
Armor. Main belt, 11 to 16 inch. Main turrets, 7 to 26 inch. Conning tower, 12 to 20 inch.
Conning tower, 20 inch of steel. 20 inches is how much? Oh my god, it's 50 centimeters. How much is 50? It's half a meter of steel. Thick as hell. I mean, that's a sex reference, I guess. But it's thick as... It's the thickest. Thickest of the thick.
Power plant, 4 Campon turbines and 12 Campon RO boilers. Power, 154,000 shaft horsepower. Maximum speed over 27 knots. Operational range, 7,200 nautical miles at 16 knots.
Yamato's key features are her main turrets, each having 3 18-inch guns. The guns could fire shells weighing almost 1.5 tons with a muzzle speed of 2,600 feet per second.
Oh my god, 600 feet per second and a 1-ton projectile. If a tank fires this small bullet, we watched Demolition Ranch video, that projectile goes through like 8 fridges or 10 gun safes. We watched the video about it, right? That seemed like a lot of power. That seemed like a lot of damage. Imagine what this projectile could do. Holy hell, I am blown away. This is truly bigger than the fish.
A gun turret, including the barbette, weighed 3,000 tons. It could contain over 150 men.
Yamato's main turrets were guided by a fire control system consisting of a director that provided parameters of fire, rangefinders, and electromechanical calculators, a form of early computers. It was a state-of-the-art system for the time. Lack of fire control radars for engaging surface targets was compensated for by top-notch grouping of salvos. This gave the Japanese firing capability on par with that of the world's leading navies. The ship's secondary battery consisted of 2 turrets, each having 3 6-inch guns. The guns featured excellent ballistic characteristics and could penetrate the armor of a typical cruiser. However, their rate of fire was pretty low. When commissioned, Yamato had 6 coaxial 5-inch anti-aircraft guns for long-range engagement, plus short-range anti-aircraft artillery consisted of 8 triple-barrel 0.9-inch cannons. The number of the AA guns was constantly built up during the war.
The 5-inch anti-aircraft guns and the 0.98-inch guns had different ranges of fire. So if an enemy aircraft flew into this gap, neither of the guns was able to effectively intercept it. Furthermore, the 5-inch guns had relatively low traverse speed. and poor elevation and depression characteristics. While the 0.98-inch guns failed to fire at the declared rate of 14 rounds per minute if the elevation was high or low.
Yamato enjoyed the heaviest armor in shipbuilding history. Its US analog, battleship Iowa, had armor that was on average 4 inches thinner.
Oh yeah, we were talking about the main cabin being half a meter of steel, reinforced steel. I don't think anything nowadays has this thick steel. This is crazy, unbelievably crazy.
The armor belt of the Japanese giant formed a citadel that covered slightly over half of her waterline length. The most protected part was the ship's conning tower.
The weapon systems became literally giant. The Japanese built a super battleship that was like 10 or 15 others put together. But the problem was that it did not pay off. You can build one Yamato-class battleship, but she would still be destroyed when facing 2, 3, or 10 US battleships. There are still such characteristics as mobility, quantity, quality, salvos.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really cool, but in the end, truly, if you have 2 or 3 US Iowa-class battleships that are 3 times cheaper to build, just build 2 and destroy this Yamato. I mean, Yamato is really cool and stuff, but it's just not practical.
Per side.
Yamato was commissioned in late 1941. In her first mission, the Battle of Midway, Yamato served as the flagship of the Japanese combined fleet.
It was a
During the
Midway.
battle, on June 4 through 6, 1942, Yamato did not fire a single shot and was used only as an HQ ship.
The Japanese military command was definitely saving their 2 best battleships for an upcoming major battle against the US fleet. As a result, Japanese seamen started to feel disappointed with their flagship. They even made up a saying that the world's 3 most useless things were China's Great Wall, the Egyptian pyramids, and the battleship Yamato.
It was not until autumn 1944 that the Japanese naval giant fought its first real battle. Together with her sister ship Musashi, Yamato attacked US landing craft near the island of Leyte. In that battle, Yamato was only slightly damaged, demonstrated her power, and recovered the status of an unsinkable giant.
Yeah, but landing craft, you're attacking a landing craft, that's nothing. Attacking a landing craft with Yamato is like destroying a mosquito with an anti-tank bazooka. A javelin missile for a mosquito, that doesn't prove anything.
However, the situation in the Pacific Theater had changed by that time.
Progress in military technology basically follows the laws of philosophy. When making a new weapon system, designers in the military usually seek to enhance its specifications, bigger caliber, thicker armor, etc. Then they come to a dead end, where they are no longer developing the Navy, but improving a separate weapon type within the existing limits. A radical change is carrier-borne aviation, and later, missile systems. But Yamato is the peak in the construction of battleships. It is not about progress, it is about reaching the peak.
Yeah, the peak, I think what they mean here is the balance point. There's no point in making a bigger ship because it won't contribute to the battle anymore. It won't contribute to its power. So Yamato, I think, was way beyond that point. I think Iowa class US battleships are perfect, but Yamato was way over. It was like Iowa on steroids. Not necessary, and it's not practical.
In 1945, World War II reached Japan's home islands. The command of the Japanese combined fleet made a Bushido-style decision. Yamato, with the help of a light cruiser and 8 destroyers, was to defend the island of Okinawa and prevent the US troops from getting any further inland, or fight to the end and finish her journey gloriously. Executing this order on April 6, 1945, the legendary Japanese battleship sailed off to fight her last battle.
So, only 2 battles.
The United States sent in its Task Force 58 to intercept the flagship of the Japanese combined fleet.
If you have Yamato and you have aircraft carriers facing it, I mean, there's nothing to do against the aircraft carriers. Yes, Yamato might have anti-aircraft weaponry, it might have AA guns, but they are not very effective. They take down maybe every 10th plane, but the rest of them then can just destroy the ship. Anti-aircraft cannons or weaponry at all was not very effective back then, so you cannot really do anything with a battleship against aircraft carriers. I think you cannot. You're just underpowered.
The Americans would not miss the chance to destroy the symbol of Japan's naval power.
Yeah.
As early as 10 a.m., the first US squadrons took off from 5 heavy and 4 light aircraft carriers, located about 300 miles away from Yamato.
5 heavy and 4 light, 9 aircraft carriers in one place. Oh my god, that power, that concentration of power in one place. I really don't know how Yamato went down exactly, but I think if you have that much aerial power, it's gonna be a piece of cake. Yamato cannot do much at all against planes.
A total of 227 aircraft took part in the destruction of the Japanese force. The battle began at 12:34. 4 aerial bombs hit Yamato, taking out a 5-inch gun and several automatic cannons. In just 20 minutes, 2 more bombs struck the battleship and a torpedo hit her port side. In response, Yamato fired her anti-aircraft weapons.
That's not gonna do much.
At 14:02, the Americans launched the last attack on the wounded, but still combat-capable Yamato. It was a demonstrative execution. 4 torpedoes, 3 to the port side and 1 to the starboard side, destroyed the ship's damage control center. Yamato stopped moving and started listing to port more and more every minute. And when this huge ship capsized, a monstrous explosion erupted. The pride and hope of the Japanese fleet went under.
How many men died? I think over 2,000 maybe. Oh my god.
Together with the ship, 3,000 crew members were lost, including the commanders of the Japanese force and the ship.
Holy hell, 3,000. This shows you that aircraft carriers was the future. Japan, if they had put all of the money, all of their power into building aircraft carriers, they could have built 2 aircraft carriers in the money of this one Yamato, and if they maybe had 2 more aircraft carriers in the Battle of Midway, they might have won the battle. If they had maybe 6 or 7 instead of 4, they might have.
For the Japanese, Yamato still remains a symbol of the nation's might that fell in battle like a true samurai. The city where the legendary battleship was built opened a museum, whose centerpiece is an 85-foot model of Yamato.
The Kure Municipal Museum of Naval History and Science was built 10 years ago to preserve the rich naval history of the city. Now it is known as the Yamato Museum. The exhibits reflect the naval history of Kure. In other words, the history of naval affairs and technologies. The museum has become quite popular. Fans of battleships come here from all over the country.
I would like to
However,
go.
we should remember that it was originally dedicated to all kinds of shipbuilding.
The violent explosion that finished the destruction of Yamato was caused by the detonation of her main battery magazines. However, there is plenty of debate about the reason for that tremendous explosion. The answer is probably hidden on the bottom of the ocean. So far, researchers have been unable to lift what is left from the giant battleship.
Oh, that's Yamato. Cool seeing the real ship.
It is true that Yamato had a number of drawbacks. Like her sister ship, Musashi, the battleship was sunk as a result of airstrikes. The key reason for that was the ship's fundamental lack of ability to resist massive air attacks.
Yeah. What can you do against it? Even if you add 10 times more AA guns, I don't think you can resist. AA guns are not an efficient means of defense against air raids. AA guns are just, yes, they can take down aircraft, but really, aircraft can do much more damage than the AA guns to the aircraft. So it's not proportional. So I don't think even having 10 times more AA guns would have done much. You need aircraft. You need aircraft carriers.
Yamato remains the largest and most powerful battleship in history. For every person who takes interest in the history of military ships, Yamato embodies military might. Born to terrify and crush enemies, this formidable steel giant managed to glorify her name even as she was defeated. She represented a pinnacle in large battleship design,
like
one that
Bismarck
will probably never be surpassed. And in that sense, Yamato will always remain a symbol and a legend.
Very cool. I can understand why you guys wanted me to watch this. Do you want me to watch Bismarck also? I watched it like 2 years ago, I think, the sinking of Bismarck, but now there are so many new videos, and Operations Room has a video. I love that channel now. It's my new best war channel. They have a video about singing of the Bismarck, which is like a little brother to Yamato. It's really big. I don't know which one's bigger. Yamato, I guess, is bigger, but I want to see that also. So maybe next time we watch the sinking of the Bismarck. Until that time, my friends, please become a patron if you can allow it to yourself. It will really help the channel. And as always, until my next video, stay cool and bye bye.